What a racket! My name's Chris Quinlan. And this is Melbourne Musos. And this is another installment of a recurring little subject I often teach, the science of the tap. Hello, how are you all today? Oh! How many taps? Oh, dear me. You've got three. I'm going to get stuck straight into it. And first of all, I'll go through the different taps, and then I'll just show you a couple of things that you can do for a solo and all sorts of different business, yeah? Now, I remember when I was young, the world had just begun, and I was happy with my first drum lesson. Three main taps, son. You got a single tap, you got a double tap, you got a press. Okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes. You practice that. You all know who I'm talking about, don't you? Oh, what's going on down there? I'll take them out, kind of thing. I've got the European folk kit, but I've taken it out. I'll just do the snare drum, and there you go. Now, what you've got is three main taps. So one of the things you want to get into with the science of the tap, part 17, is get yourself a nice little flow going. Then you build up your single stroke roll, get it nice and flowy, get your feet in. There you go. And you get that, and then we start adding things to it, okay? Now, I have some cockamamie examples. You go off to get a pizza, and in many cases, you'll have the pizza bases all ready to go, and then I have number 14, the Mexicana, thanks, mate. There you go. And then they just add the bits and pieces to it. There you go. So what you've got is your bass. There you go. All right. Now, I've already talked about the single tap. Now, what happens in the most basic of ways, you make sure you've got a nice flow going. Now, of course, this is more for your practice pad. You don't really want to do it on a full-blown snare drum. Mum's going to come in fairly quick. That's enough. That's enough. I wish you'd stuck with the violin. Sorry. Gave me the Tommy tits. Memories. Anyway, so there you go. You get a nice little flow. Bring in your left hand. And then you can do, just bring it together. Now, when you get, that's your single stroke roll, of course. I'm very basic. It's still January, okay? So what it is I'm still doing the getting back into it kind of series that I'm doing here, that I've mentioned in the last couple of episodes. So what happens is that then you have a double stroke roll, which is 2 with every hand. Of course there is. Very basic, I know. Get a nice flow. There's 2 speeds, or there's 2 gears to a double stroke roll. There's 2 separate. But as you build it up, okay, you get the tap and the rebound. You see? Oh, I'm doing that to death, aren't I? And then you have the multiple bounce roll, or the press, or the buzz. Okay, lots of different names for pretty much the same thing, depending on where you are. I've always known it as a press roll. And what it is drop a ball. Then what you do is you give the stick a little bit of pressure. You know what I mean by dropping a ball. The typical drop a ball on the ground. Finished. Press a little. That's why it's called the press roll. And then you do it with both hands. I'm surprised at the amount of people that said, Chris, I've never been able to really play a press roll. So this is it, sort of thing. I'll show you. There you go. You've got... So what you try and do is just go, rrr, rrr. Can you roll your R's? Rrr, rrr, rrr. I feel like I'm Pepe Le Pew. Rrr, Fifi. Rrr. God. Anyway, there you go. Now what happens, it's all loosey-goosey, right? Just try and get... Rrr, rrr. Easily amused, Chris, easily amused. Now, I'll do this. We all know what a Venn diagram is, the two circles, and then they intersect. The press roll is in the middle, okay, where they intersect. Because what happens is if you're just doing this, they're separated. Okay, that's fine. But when you want to get a nice, smooth press roll, when you start with, say, the single stroke roll, press them, and then get the touch. They connect and you've got that. Back in the brass band days, Anzac Day was one thing, but Remembrance Day was a whole other thing, very much more somber. And the old band would get on the bus in the morning and go to all these different places. You know, we'd do Queen's Park, because it was the City of Essendon brass band back in the day, and do the cenotaph thing, the ceremony there. And then we'd spend the rest of the afternoon going to the various RSL clubs, you know, that kind of thing, and play. And it was more somber than an Anzac Day. So the band would be doing hymns. And it'd be like, I've said this before, dear old Ronnie Roo said, oh, well, just press roll, Chris. As if it's easy. So I spent all afternoon going. By the end of the day, the beer back in the band room, my hands were shaking, my wrists were falling off. That's how tricky a press roll can be, but just the touch, you've got to get the touch. They're your three main taps. Single tap, double tap, press. Okay, so you got e. There you go. All right. Now, what are you going to do with them? Okay. Oh, by the way, I nearly forgot. When you're actually seeing the notation, okay, I'll put it up here later on, but you've got the normal note, okay, let's say a crotchet. That's that. Then what starts to happen is when you start getting the double tap, you take the stem and put a slash through it. Now, a slash through the stem of a note means that if it's one, you play quavers because the slash represents a tail. So if you've got two slashes, they're 16th notes. Three slashes, they're 32nd notes, or a press, the aforementioned press. And that's what goes on. So when you're actually playing something like this, I think it's the saber dance, isn't it? Anyway, there you go. So that's what goes on. There's a little slashes in there, you see. You've got normal notes. Like that. Then what happens if you do a press? Instead of a slash, it's more recent, meaning, you know, sort of thing over the last few decades, it's bobbed up. I didn't know it wasn't around when I first started drumming, but towards the end of the 80s, I go, what's this Z? And it's a Z through the stem of a note. My original Sibelius program, where I write my books, did not have a Z, okay, when I bought it in 2004. But with all the upgrades and stuff, and now, you know, we're a couple of decades on, There is the Z there. You can press the Z. I used to have to put them in like the letter Z and all this extra work. Now you just press the button that's there. So it's a relatively new sign, you see, and that's what goes on. It's a press. So you get... Now when you're playing them, the press is kind of determined on the notes that are around it, you see. So if you're doing semi-quavers, 1 iana, 2 iana, 3 iana, 4 iana. But if you're doing triplets, there you go, you've morphed them into triplets, you see. Now what can you do with all these things? You can accent them. A note played louder than others. I generally tend to think in thirds. If you've got normal notes that are around about 3, the accent would be about 7. If you're doing it very lightly, like a 1, then the accent would be 3. Then you start rolling in. And above it you have the little arrowhead, which is the accent mark. Now, here's something that you don't see quite as often. It kind of looks like a V. Funnily enough, if you are going through violin, it means an up bow. And generally speaking, it's a rim shot. Now, what starts to happen is that now you've got a number of strokes, a number of taps, the science of the tap, to be able to play something, even if it's just a practice pad. Ping of destiny, I tells you. I like my ping. Don't worry. I've got the glue. I've got the everything there. I need to dampen it down, but I like it. There you go. All right, what have we got so far? We've got a single tap. Double tap. Press. Okay, there you go. You've got an accent. Rim shot. Then flam 'em. An appoggiatura, an acciaccatura are the two types. I did them just a few weeks ago, so I'm going over it fairly quickly. An appoggiatura is we will rock you, big and wide. Taught to me, or explained to me as an African flam. The silence of the flam. Oh, no. Anyway, sorry. Oldie but goodie. Maybe not so goodie anymore. And then you have an acciaccatura, which is the tight one with when you're in a marching band. Now, the grace note before the flam. If there's no little baby slash through the grace note, if it's just basically the grace note, it's an appoggiatura, wide. You can hear the separation, but it's not a semi-quaver or a 30-second note. It still is a grace note. It's just, there's your main note, and then just the little baby note there. I did this just a few weeks ago. Then, when you do the slash, that's up against each other. So there's... There you go. Then you have a drag. 2 of them. Double tap, single tap. Oh my Lord, back to the wedding reception days. Oh my Lord, St. Albans Reception Centre 1991. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. See? Man's guts to know his limitations. Look what happens if I do this. You got the idea? Okay, and there you have it. There's all those. Now, there's a couple of little things that you can do. There's one other little thing that I'll get out of the way, is of course the rim click, the humble rim click. Cha-cha-cha. There you go. You got your rim click there. Okay. So that's what happens there. So they're all the different kinds of notes, and each one has a certain way of getting written, which I said before, I'll put them up here as we go. And that's what you have, you see. Now what happens is that then you can start to put them together, your little science of the tap tool kit, and start putting things together. There's a rudiment I love, it's murder. It's called the cod liver oil. And Ed Shaughnessy, the very famous drummer from the Johnny Carson show, the one drummer who got close to Buddy Rich, you could see Buddy Rich sweating back in the day in the 70s when they did the big drum battle and all that. You could see him, you go, oh, bloody hell, better get something happening. And he had a thing, I've got it in my Modern Drummer magazine around about 1979 in the other room. And it's a cod liver oil, probably because it gives everyone the pommy tits. Press, get your flow, double, single, double, single, press, double, sorry, double, press, double, single, double, press, and your hands fall off. It's a killer. It's beautiful. It's very good once you get to know it. And then what happens is that when you're starting to actually hear some of this Ed Shaughnessy solos, some of the Buddy Rich solos, I often tend to think of Buddy Rich as a bit of an innie, in the sense that what you see with his solos when you see them a lot, he's very snare drummy, and then he flicks out. It's a bit like belly buttons. It's like innies and outies. And then when you're hearing, say, John Bonham, he's a bit of an outie, and he comes in with a snare drum, innies and outies. I remember one of my students started giggling about it. And I said, what's the thing? Oh, I'm thinking belly buttons. What? And he said, well, it's an innie. He's an innie. There's a couple of Buddy Rich licks, maybe. And then you got Bonham. He did snare drum too. He did both innies and outies. There you go. I didn't think I was going to do innies and outies, but there you are. Okay, it is all live after all. There you go. Mix it all up. Now I'm doing a bit of a free open snare drum solo there to demonstrate all the different little bits and pieces and all that stuff. But what can actually happen is that you can actually take a, one of the classic rhythms and then double it up and do lots of different things with it. I've already done a show just a little while ago called Flam 'em. So you might take a 3/2 clave. Split. And you're getting this kind of complex rhythm, but it's actually based in something that we hold near and dear, the humble 3/2 clave used the world over, along with the calypso and the reverse clave and all the others. So that's what goes on. So if you're actually, say, playing... I use the as just the basis of a little solo. You see? There you go. Alrighty then. Now, one of the other things that you can sort of do, I better get a little bit of a wriggle on, looking at the time there. But what goes on also is sometimes you pick your mark. Now, what happens is you've got what we call if you've got a four-wheel drive, a torque ratio. Sort of thing, like some of those four-wheel drives for the, rugged terrain. And if you're going up and all that, you've got the torque ratio, gears, that kind of stuff. Now, when you're dealing with a practice pad and a snare drum, you've got the bounciest, you've pretty much got the bounciest drum, all right? There's that. But as the drums get bigger, there's less rebound, okay? People like Dennis Chambers say, play on pillows and stuff like that. Yeah, but it's good to have the touch. So what happens is that when you're going down the drums, there's you start to feel the different kind of resistance, that kind of thing. Now, this doesn't happen on electronic drums because they're all essentially pads, or even mesh, which is even more bouncier than a snare drum, if you know what I mean. So when you're doing, say, things like that, I was explaining Sandy Nelson to one of my students just last night. Let there be drums. Lots of wrist, do you see? I have this little thing that I do, really. You start with all wrist, everything's wrists. Then at some stage, you might have all fingers. Look at my wrists, they're not moving, so you can't call it wrist control anymore, it's finger control. That's up there, they're your fingers. But everything that you do is some kind of blend. It could be 50-50, 60-40, 40-60, 70-30, whatever it is. So when you start to do things like that, you use your practice time to actually get like a smooth transition. Okay, that sort of stuff. I get very suspicious when I just use all wrists. Oh, I just use all fingers. It's a bit like saying, I just use fourth gear. What? What do you do when you take off from the lights? Well, you've got your doof happening. I sound like the crow down the road. I suppose I better start wrapping the show up now that I'm going blue. All right, so there's that. Do you notice that we have plenty of things with these taps? The science of the taps. Part 17 or something. So I hope you get something out of it. Have a look at all that. And then depending on where you're putting it, if you're doing it here, you do a 3-2 clave, bum, 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 bum. Hey, bo diddle, if you do it here, New Orleans second line rhythm, you see. If you're doing it here, well, you're going all funky. I hope you got something out of that. My name's Bruce Quinlan, and this is Melbourne Musos Live. Oh, I hope you enjoyed it. And now, for a nice glass of